Welcome. I bid you welcome. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. Welcome to another edition of Album Track Ranking A to Z. And today's episode is brought to you by the letter K. Now, you already saw the thumbnail for this episode, so you know what album I'm going to be doing. But let me just take you back to that day. Well, I wish I knew the exact day. Unfortunately, I was only about six. I remember the year being 1975. And my dad and I were in this department store called Two Guys. And I don't know what drew me to this album cover, but something about it just called my name and it begged me to get it. And I did the same. I begged my dad to get this album for me. And he did. To my surprise, he did because, my brother and sister both listened to a lot of different music. And so if this was something that maybe he didn't quite understand why I would be drawn to something like this, I don't know. Maybe it was just because they looked very cartoonish, but and I do wish this was my original copy that I got back in 1975, but it hurts me to talk about that story of why I don't have my original vinyl and CDs anymore. But Dress to Kill. This was my first Kiss album. I begged my dad to get it, and he did. And so, and this started my, this would become, Kiss would really become my childhood heroes from in elementary school for the most part. Um, I was bullied as a young kid, so I never really, and I don't really know why. Yeah, I was a fat, pudgy kid. Maybe I was a little awkward. Maybe I was a little sensitive. Um, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was a little different. I don't know. For whatever reason, I was bullied a lot as a kid. And, the fact that I was the Kiss fan and everybody else liked Elvis or Sean Cassidy or something like that, well, yeah, you were always going to be on the outside looking in. But anyway, enough about me. Kiss, Dress to Kill. Um, Released in March 19th, 1975. They recorded it only a month earlier in 10 days. So they threw this thing together really quickly and Casablanca got it out. Neil Bogart, the head of Casablanca Records, at the production helm. I think Peter Criss, I think, is known to say that the first order of business that Neil did was order a pound of weed. Uh, Paul didn't seem to think he really did much behind the production table. I think they just wanted to get the album done, and for budgetary reasons. Because Casablanca was a very struggling label at this time. You have the iconic cover, shot in October of 1974, overlooking um, the southwest corner of 20 West 23rd Street and 8th Avenue, looking north. Um, Shot by Bob Gruen. Of course, it's always funny to look at them in the suits because you can look at Gene and it's like, this suit looks like it's he's really trying to stretch into that suit, especially with the pants. But I think Peter's the only one that looks comfortable because that was his own suit. But yeah, the suits were owned by Bill Coyne. None of them owned suits, but anyway, gosh, what did this album mean to me as a kid? I listened to those songs and there was just something about the music that it just got me. It grabbed my attention. It wasn't something scary like something out of Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon or Genesis, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. I think of songs like Time from Pink Floyd um or The Waiting Room from Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Both those songs scared me to death as a little child. As a very young child, I would go, screaming into another part of the house so I wouldn't have to hear hear the songs that are being played. So, but these guys didn't scare me. I don't know. Maybe it was all the cartoons and whatever I was watching. But anyway, let's break these songs down. Let's rank them. And gosh, this I know this is going to rank differently for everybody. Um, my top ones were pretty easy. And I think my last two were kind of easy. It was just all the stuff in the middle. Um, but yeah, so let's get into this. So for me, the track that'll come in at number 10 will be Anything for My Baby. The seventh track on the CD, second track on side two. Um, I don't know, kind of a flat opening for me. I don't think I was ever a big fan of most of this song, although the song does kick in and it has a good verse, good chorus. But I don't know, I wasn't really into that flat opening, and I don't know, there was just it didn't seem as lifeless, or it didn't seem full of life to me. And I guess I've always been kind of against that track a little bit. It's still a good track. Don't get me wrong. It's still a good track. It's just probably not my absolute favorite. Um, the number nine track is going to be the number three song on side one, Ladies in Waiting. This was a song that was pretty quickly put together in the studio. Gene plays rhythm guitar on this. Um, it's not a bad song. Again, not one of my absolute favorites, but not a bad song. Um, Number eight, I really kind of wish this could be higher, but here again, all the middle tracks could kind of all sync up together a little bit. Love Her All I Can. I love that groove. Love the riff. You know, great song. Anthrax would cover this during the Sound of White Noise era, and they had Paul and Gene backing vocal on it. I think it's still a good track, still a good riff. Another good. The thing about a lot of these songs is they're all so short, except for one. But most of these songs are pretty much for the most part, under 3 minutes long. So they're all pretty short. Um, Next up is going to be the number two track on side one, Two Timer. I kind of love the snarling riff of this. It's and again, Gene's vocal here is just really good and nasty and sinister. So I kind of dig that. Um, Again, I probably should be thankful that when in 1975 as I'm listening to these songs, I'm glad I had no idea what these songs were about. You know, things like Two Timer, Ladies in Waiting, and stuff like that. Number six is going to be the third track on side two, She. And I think the only reason I bring this down a little low is because I probably like the live version better on a live. Although the studio version, after hearing it again after a while, boy, it still rocks, and it's still a really strong track. I remember though as a kid, I didn't like it. I didn't like this song for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just because it was too long of a song and it just kind of drug for me as a kid. But as I've gotten older, I certainly love the song. But for whatever reason, as a kid, I didn't like this. I don't know why. Now number five is probably going to surprise a bunch of people. Rock and Roll All Night, the album closer. Here again, I love the live version better. Not to say that the studio version's bad. It's good, and maybe I've heard it way too many times. But as a kid, anytime I heard the song on the radio or on a TV commercial, I just jumped for joy. So I still have a lot of very fond memories of this song. Um, Number four is going to be the album opener, Room Service. Pretty much the song that started off for me to listen to Kiss. You know, again, a song I should be very thankful that I don't know what the song was about back then. One thing I noticed though about this as I was listening to it again, it's like, man, Gene's bass. You know, Gene's bass is really evident on a good chunk of this album. You know, there are two songs that he does not play on, which I'm going to get to here in just a minute. But he's really got some good bass lines going on in this, and Room Service is one of them. A really good. So that's a really good track. Number three is going to be the side two opener, "Come On and Love Me," with the intro solo by Paul. Again, probably just a strong live version as well. But this is another song that I just love this. I've always loved this song. Um, another song just has very good memories for me as a kid. Number two might surprise some people that this is this high. Getaway, the Peter Criss sung Ace Frehley written track. This would be one song that Ace would play all the guitars and bass on. And I like Peter's vocal. I liked it on this one. It's a good driving track, good solo. Great rock and roll tune. Always was one of my favorites. Shame, it's a shame they just don't play. They never played this one live that much. I don't think, and if they did, it was very rare. Um, that leads me to my favorite track on this album. Has probably always been Rock Bottom. I love the intro. I love that 12 string intro to start the song off. Um, I always just had that connection to that. This is another song Ace plays all the guitars and bass to. When the song proper kicks in, great track, great album side closer. Always this was one of my favorites, but I just absolutely adore the intro. Um, was one of the first things I learned in my guitar when I first started taking guitar lessons. I always wanted to learn how to play this intro, and so we worked on it, and yeah, so there you go, folks. You know, I want to show this off again. I've shown this many a time. This is the when I got into the Kiss Army for a little while. That's my brother's signature on here. Of course, I've shown this a number of times. My Kiss card. I never signed my name on it, but yeah, this was my original Kiss Army card, and Kiss was just such a integral part of my life growing up, and so yeah, this it was a no-brainer that I was going to do Kiss for the letter K. Um, again, just anytime I can kind of talk about Kiss, because you know, I talk about Wasp being my go-to band now, but I mean, Kiss truly was my go-to band in my elementary school years, and I could have talked about any album. I could have talked about Destroyer. I could have talked about the first album. I could have talked about Rock and Roll Over. I could have talked about any of those albums. Um, but I had to go with Dress to Kill as because it was my first, and there you go. So, what do you think about this one? Talk to me about Dress to Kill. What do we think about this album? What's your favorite to maybe least favorite song? And for me, there is no least favorite on this album because they all just have such a special part in my heart. So, there you go. So until next week when the letter will be brought to you by the letter L, John Clauser, Johnny Metal the Metal Ted saying rock and roll all night, rock forever. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.